Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbender, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to have as our guest today my friend, Jesús Flores. Hi, Jesús. How are you?
Very good, Sammy. Sammy, thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. And I made you wake up early. I'm sorry. He's all the way. Jesus is the president and CEO of the Latino Business Foundation in Silicon Valley. And so the time difference doesn't make a difference in us being able to, get to know each other, collaborate. I'm just excited, to have met you this past year. These are the gifts, right? A virtual virtual
Yes.
contacting, and connecting with people. And so I'm just so thankful that we had an opportunity to meet the way we met and start working together. So and just really supporting the Black and Brown business community, particularly the Hispanic community that you serve in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley in San Jose, right?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm also very excited and thankful also for knowing you and knowing your team. You've been very great support to our team here in Silicon Valley. So thank you for all that support, Sammy.
Yes, it was really interesting how we met. And I don't believe in coincidences or happenstance. I really think that it was just the right time. We were all in the right place. And it was funny because it took a little bit of probing and being a little bit disruptive, really, to finally get down to, to establishing this kind of candid, open conversation and really, finding ways, intentional ways to work together, right? And
Mhm.
it was funny because our friend Lakeisha French Merritt and myself, well, she brought me in. We were called in to participate in a regional initiative to really support underserved and underrepresented communities try to come back from the inequities that the pandemic really amplified in Silicon Valley. And while it's no news to us, right, that these inequities existed way before the pandemic hit, it was interesting, at least for me, because you live there in that region and in that ecosystem. But it was very interesting for me as an outsider coming in, to help bring some level of insight and expertise to actually validate that all of these assumptions that I had about Silicon Valley and their lack of, being able to not forget about exercising an equity lens, just having, an equity lens was so evident. And so it took me and Lakeisha just a couple of meetings to say, wait a second, we can't just show up in these meetings with with the usual suspects. We need to start making calls and find out who's doing the work, who's rolling up their sleeves, and really impacting our communities, and that's it. And that's how I met you, Jesus. And we got on
Thank
that
you.
call, and it was supposed to be for half an hour, and then we were on the call for almost 2 hours, right?
Yeah, 2 hours, 2 hours. It was very exciting, and thank you for mentioning that. As you know, Silicon Valley is known for obviously the tech industry, the lots and lots of billionaires that live in our area. But as you mentioned, we also are the area where there is three, sometimes four families living in one house. So that talks about the inequality that exists here in Silicon Valley. And obviously, our organization is trying to support those small business owners that, as I always call them, the local family owned business owners that, again, are struggling through this pandemic and that need a lot of support at this time. So, once again, I just want to express that again. Thank you for all your support.
No, absolutely. And this is what we do. One of the big aha moments I think that we had in that initial 2 hour almost conversation was of all the similarities, because I was saying, no, because our small businesses struggles with housing. I mean, like basic needs, that it's not so much about resiliency, it's about survival, about feeding the babies and putting food on the table, with transportation, with the language barriers, and because I just asked questions and listened, and every time you said something, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing over here on the
Mhm,
East Coast.
mhm,
So sometimes we think we're alone, and it's a very lonely place sometimes, right, to do this kind of work of trying to edify and build community. And we think that, oh my goodness, this is only happening to me. But then as it turns out, again, this is the silver lining of the pandemic. And it's like that we were put into the same space
mhm,
virtually,
mhm,
where we could
mhm.
say, I see you, I hear you, I know you, because that's me, that's us, that's what we're doing over here too. What did you think when we started saying, oh my gosh, yeah, we have issues with transportation, with job creation, with access to technology, with, I mean, all of the above.
I think that one of the most impactful situations that happened when we started having these conversations was that, as you mentioned, we noticed that the same issues that we have here in Silicon Valley, we also have those issues everywhere. We now know that people, small businesses in Chicago, are going through the same situations, and it's not only the how the COVID has affected our community just in terms of health, but we know that that has revealed all of the inequalities that we see on education, transportation, like you mentioned. So I think you talk about something very important, and I I'm pretty sure I mentioned to you we conducted a survey here in Silicon Valley. I wanted to get the specific data from our very small business owners to also um, produce the specific needs and the specific programs to support those businesses. And one of the needs that we found, it was a lot of great information. I can tell you that 90% of the small businesses in East San Jose are people of color or low
Mhm.
income people of color that lives in our area. Of those, 70% are Latino owned businesses.
Wow.
Um, of those 70%, actually 60% of the small businesses in the area are women owned. That is very important. 60%, 67%, I'm sorry. And the other fact that is very important is that of these women owned businesses, almost, I believe, it's 70%. Yeah, 70% of these are single moms that own businesses and that are the only source of income for their households. So
Wow.
imagine the impact. Single moms that are the owners of these businesses and that are the only source of income. That means that they are being impacted, I would say, probably two or three times harder than most other of our community members. We, after this survey, we identified the specific needs. One of those needs you mentioned about the language barrier.
Yeah.
Almost 70% of the respondents to our survey want their information in Spanish. They
Mm.
mentioned how the lack of understanding, many of them were not able to obtain any federal loans or any grants because sometimes it was difficult for them to complete those applications. So we know that there is specific support needed for our community.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing, I mean, I'm so happy that you did this survey. And that's the thing, right? You've been around the block. you've been doing this for how long now? Decades already. When did you start doing this type of work of supporting small business owners? Because you're a business owner yourself, right? So how long has
Yes.
it been?
Yeah, I've been a business owner since 1995.
Mhm.
But the first time that I started supporting, I will say supporting small business was back in 1999, 98 to 99. There was downtown San Jose was going through a retrofitting process, and over about 200 businesses were at risk of being displaced. So uh, we organized them. We organized our small business, and we were able to support and get some relocation assistance for them and for us because I was one of those businesses being
Mhm.
displaced. So yeah, we go back all the way to 1999. We've been doing that. Then I founded the Alum Rock Business Association, and then I founded the Latino Business Foundation, which is a citywide, I will say countywide at this time, organization that supports several thousands of small businesses. And I will call them very, very small businesses. We must understand, and you know this, I mentioned that the definition of a small business is for the federal definition of a small business is 500 employees or less.
Hmm.
Imagine 500 employees or less. That's way, way above of what we see here at our East San Jose, where most of the small businesses have an average of 5 to 6 employees. So
Right.
we are not that type of small businesses. That's why I continue calling them local family-owned businesses because they're our neighbors here in the area. They live close to us. Their children go to school with our kids as well. So their family as well, and they neighbors. I'm sorry.
Yes, well, I think it's brilliant that you said, you know what, it's time to do a survey, because there's all this talk about supporting the community and as you say, you see it. You're like you see exactly what the needs are day in, day out. You get like thousands of calls every week, from people asking, you and your team and your small team, I might add, for help, navigating everything from financing to tenant issues to branding to everything in between. And so I think that that was really smart and instrumental on your part to conduct this survey in the last quarter of last year of 2020 to really get some data, because from experience that in this society or in this framework, you need to tell a story through numbers to be able to get the support that you need. And but it's also heartbreaking, right, to actually confirm and quantify how how large these numbers, because I'm sure you see the small businesses owned by moms, by single moms, but I'm sure you it was surprising to you to see how many they are, and
Yeah.
so to be able to capture that information is really powerful and commendable. Yeah. Another thing that I was really surprised about too is the trust that you've been able to build with your small business community or your family owned businesses, because I think you were hoping to get at least 50, to respond, because I think because you're very humble and modest that way, but you
Thank you.
you got close to 200 to reply to your survey, which also is a testament, right, of the need for
Hmm.
help. Two, for a need to express themselves, like, they're coming out of the shadows and saying, yes, please hear me, right? It's like a cry for help. And number three, a testament to how you're viewed, how the Latino Business Foundation Silicon Valley is viewed as a trusted champion, an advocate for their best interests. What do you hear, or what can you give me some like highlights of some of the responses or feedback you've gotten from the small business community, with the support you've given them, during this past, year.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that, Savi. I think one of the items that we are so proud of to mention is that, as you mentioned at the beginning, our goal was to reach 50 responses from the small businesses in the area. And as you mentioned, we actually got this survey was a very long survey. Um,
Yes, I saw it.
it
You
was
shared it.
it
It
was
was like,
30 30 questions. It was 30 questions and almost 10 minutes to be completed. And you know that the recommended surveys are usually about 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes. And but we wanted to actually get the data. We wanted to get all the information needed. So what we did is we said, okay, we know, and you know this, many of us receive one or two or three surveys every day, especially business owners. So we say, okay, we know that there might be some survey fatigue, we will call it like that.
mhm,
But
yeah,
people might say,
uh-huh,
oh, another survey. So we said, okay, I wanted to put together a survey, an idea, so when our business owners were to see it, they'll say, okay, this is the survey I want to respond to. So we work with a team to put together a logo, a specific logo, the name, we made videos, images, we advertise it on Facebook, Instagram, letting the small businesses know that this was the uh, survey to respond to. And as you mentioned, we are very happy. We aimed for, at the beginning, our goal was 50 responses. We actually had over 200 completed surveys. Over 800 business owners started the survey. I believe it's 550 completed 50% of the survey, but again,
mhm,
200 of them completed
the
all of
entire
the way.
thing. Yeah.
And obviously we have all of this great data, which, as you mentioned, we knew because we've been doing this for a long time. We know most of this data, but we actually I wanted to have that on paper. And
Hmm.
I would say with something to back up my arguments sometimes when I talk to community
Yeah.
leaders or city officials. So now we have the data. Now we're putting together the programs. And let me back up a little bit, as you mentioned about the trust that we have with our community business owners. Back in August of 2019, we organized a webinar. It was more like a workshop to talk to small business beauty salons, nail salons, all of the beauty industry that was being hurt the most because many of them were not able to open their businesses. Or if they
Hmm.
were able to at one point open, they were able to open at less than 25% capacity. So they were being um, impacted the most. We put together this workshop. Again, our goal was to bring about 25 to 30 small business owners. We got close to 70 on our
Hmm.
Zoom call. And we learned so much information that it was very impactful. When I mentioned about the need to support single mom business owners, that is probably the day I started realizing that information because again, we identified the most business owners that are on the beauty industry are women.
Yeah.
Most of them are women of color as well,
Hmm.
and many of them are also single moms. So we got the information. I remember at that time, we my plan was to once completing this workshop to try to get as much information to write a letter to our governor here in California. And I said, okay, we gathered the information and tomorrow we will write a letter to our governor. That same day, we stayed there all night, probably until 3 a.m., writing that letter. The next day at 9 a.m., we will send in that letter to our governor. And I'm not saying that it was us making the change, but I know we helped a little bit on the governor deciding to reopen the beauty salons and nail salons and all the beauty industry here in California. So again,
Yeah.
it's important. It's important to have the data and to have the contact with the small businesses, and we are very proud to say that we do have that
Yeah.
in our.
Yes, no, I think it's fantastic, and already because I told you this, that once we met, it was easy for us to say, okay, this is where we're going to focus our energy, right? It's like, we'll deal with whatever they're trying to figure out over there, meaning the leadership in your area, right, in Silicon Valley. And we're still, having these conversations and stuff, but we're not holding our breath in terms of, any kind of real engagement, in the sense of us being able to help, create safe spaces to really grow and embed, their approach moving forward with, an equity lens. But we'll see. But regardless, I think that the positive outcome is that now we're looking for ways to work together, you know,
Hmm.
um,
Yes.
cross regionally, just from the east to the west, and then we have Lakeisha in Atlanta, and really trying to come together to support each other, mentor each other, recommend resources to each other, pitch, what we have to offer to impact, the most vulnerable in our communities, together, and individually too. So it's like, I know your story. So if I'm in spaces over here, where it's like, oh, we wish we could help XYZ, and it turns out to be, right, small businesses, or we can even encourage and say, hey, have you thought of, businesses owned by women who are single moms,
Hmm.
that we can bring that up, in other areas, and you do the same, and so I just feel that this serves as an example, I feel, to my, and then having Lakeisha, on the team too, it's like, I just feel like we're trying to, in a way, model behavior where we can break down the silos, even, within the Latino community, because I'm Caribeña, right? I'm from Puerto Rico. And your background, you're from of Mexican descent, right? And so then
Hmm.
Lakeisha is a black owned woman owned business. She has her own business. So we all have our own businesses. We're all activists and, advocates for minority owned businesses, what they call minority owned businesses. And so I think it's the only way that we
Yeah.
can create equitable pathways to social mobility and generational wealth in our communities if we band together. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. It's that's great the way you put it together. I think to me it was great to get to know you, especially because I was when I was hearing you when I was hearing Lakeisha is so great of I mean so knowledgeable. The uh, the way she explained things to us, the way she put together the issues is like wow, she knows what is talking about. And I was very happy. I am I will say energized. I was very energized after speaking to you and Lakeisha because I'm like, okay, now we have more people who understands us and understands me on the issues that we're going through here in Silicon Valley. And as you mentioned, now we see that it's not only in Silicon Valley, it's everywhere. We need to
Hmm.
pay attention to our very, very small business owners that are, I just give you an example. Here in San Jose, we have 11,400 very, very small businesses. And when
Hmm.
I say very small businesses, that is businesses with less than 9 employees.
Hmm.
But even though we call them very small businesses, they create over 55,000 jobs. So
Wow.
again, very small businesses, but a lot of impact, 55,000 jobs. And I know that is the same story in Orlando, Florida, and in Atlanta, Georgia. It is everywhere. It's in Chicago. We are at this time working with a group of people, there's Mujeres Empresarias Latinas,
Hmm.
which it's putting together a group of almost 60 um, small business owners. They're all women and they're all
Hmm.
Latinas, and
Hmm.
we're working with them again. We're not waiting for anything. We know that the need is there, and we're already acting and doing the programs that they need.
Yes, but help would be wonderful, right? Because that's the thing.
Well,
I mean, come on. I mean, you're talking about a business environment. I mean, Silicon Valley, everybody's no news to anybody that it's like the wealth is there to be able to fix, right? And the inequities, and to really invest in the communities,
Yeah.
and to create a pipeline of talent that's diverse, that can feed into, obviously these great tech jobs, and also help creating that equity lens, through a diverse workforce, right? That doesn't really exist internally, but also help support the business community that, as you mentioned, is so diverse and can be a partner really to all of these big companies and organizations. I just feel that what's happening in the rest of the country is just so blatantly, like, strong to see, or so blatantly just like disparity is just, that gap is so huge, in your region. And that's what makes it seem like it's like a tall mountain to climb, to try to eliminate barriers. And so anyway, I just feel privileged, honored, to have met you, to see if I can, in some way, shape, or form chip in, with anything. I'm already making calls to all my friends and say, hey, how we can help, and maybe we can, we're working on creating a cohort, right? Of
Thanks.
some of these women entrepreneurs and business owners, particularly single moms, because they're head of households. And so then how do they sustain their families,
Yeah.
during these
Yeah.
times? And so really trying to help, in any way we can, while we also help over here, right? It seems daunting, but I just feel it's not impossible. We just have to keep
Yeah.
on, yeah, keep on knocking
Keep
on
on
those doors,
keeping
and
on.
making a big stink and being
Yeah.
disruptive.
Yeah. I honestly think that, and I always say the same. We have a lot of needs. We have a lot
Mhm.
of needs, and all of our small business, or most of our small businesses, have needs, and are in a huge need of support at this time. But we need to prioritize. When
Yeah.
when we say when everything is important, nothing is important. We have to
Mhm.
say who. Which is the segment that is in more need of support at this time, and by no doubts, the single moms that are business owners. That's our first priority, our biggest priority at this time,
Mhm.
because again, um, I mean, that is probably a 2-hour podcast with you to talk
Yeah,
about
just
that.
on that, right? And you do
It's
have
just
some
on that.
programming. You already you have the
Mhm.
business. What is it called? The Business Academy. Tell me about the programming that you've already created and you're ready to deploy,
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
be able to address the needs that came out of the survey and in the format that they're asking you to deliver it. So talk to me about
yeah.
that.
Under our actually, we have the Business Academy under our Latino Business Foundation programs, the Academy, and also the Women Empower. Um, the Women Empower is a program designed to support the small business owners that are women, obviously. And what we're doing is we're creating this program that is called Proyecto 21.
Mhm.
And it's in collaboration with Mujeres Empresarias Latinas. That is a program that what we're bringing or trying to bring all of the support they need, like education, technical support, uh, legal structure, all of
Mhm.
those needs that a small business have, but especially a single mom will have. And we're talking even childcare. We need to talk about childcare,
Yes.
for example. That's one of their biggest needs. And we're talking to our city officials and other community leaders to get support for that, because once again, those are specific needs for single
Right.
moms. Childcare, even finance. You'll be surprised how the disparity that it is when a male business owner is looking for finance, as of when a single mom
Female.
is applying for
Yeah.
finance, female. So it's a lot of need. We are trying to bring all of that through our different projects, but again, we're working on that. We're not waiting. As you mentioned, help is always needed, and help is always
Yeah,
welcome.
and when we say help, let's just be very clear, people. It's funding. It's funding.
Yes.
It's bacalao. It's moolah. It's dough. It's yes. So I mean, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
right, Jesus? Let's just be very clear because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, well, you didn't ask, so now we're asking for
Oh yeah.
people's
Yeah.
support.
Definitely.
Whoever's on a mission to really make impact, it's important that you go through the exercise of going to the grassroots community and identifying the leadership that's doing the work. And as outsiders coming into Silicon Valley, I'm going to tell you something. It didn't take too long because we've been around the block, so we know how to smell shit. We could smell shit when we see it, right? And so it was like, okay, this isn't
Yeah.
working. This isn't working. We need to start making calls, and trying to figure out the who's really impacting the lives of people directly, not with a mediator, not with no, and someone that has a collaborative spirit too, and the right intentions, that are pure, that are about building community anyway. And so I just feel like, it's not that hard. People say, "Oh, it's just that we don't know who to support." Well, this is definitely a place where, lives can be transformed with the Latino Business Foundation Silicon Valley, and where there's a really huge, huge need for intervention for
Yeah.
as soon as possible. And I know that you're doing the best you can, given the resources that you can tap into. But this is really like a call to action for everyone. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be people in the Bay Area, which would be nice, but also at a national level, because it behooves us all, to help our communities, our business community, first not suffer. Second, get over this horrific, experience that's been, the pandemic. And number three, thrive, reach their fullest potential and just thrive, for the
Yeah.
betterment of society, period. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's
Yes.
a lot of work to do, but I'm hopeful that you'll get, the support
I
you
am.
need.
I am hopeful because we know we're doing the work. We know that somehow, somewhere, just like it happened, somehow, somewhere in Orlando noticed our work. Someone
Hmm.
in Atlanta, Georgia noticed our work. And now we have your support. And thank you for mentioning for so long. Again, I've been doing this for a long period of time. And it was just last year that I decided to found this organization as a nonprofit to actually be able to bring some funding, because I've been
Yeah.
doing this and with permission from my wife. I've been doing this out of my savings account for so many years. And
Yeah.
but now this, I understand that there's a lot of need. We have a team of three. It's me and my daughter Stephanie and Brenda. That's our team. And imagine if we were able to have 10 people working.
Yeah.
The impact that we'll have with all of this community. Obviously, when I say team, this is the people that is right here, but we have you as a support all the time
No,
with
I
all of
know
the
what you mean.
partners,
Totally. We do the same
Leticia.
here. We have a team, and it's a small crew that does all of the grassroots,
Mhm.
advocacy. It's not easy. And it feels lonely sometimes, right?
Yeah. Sometimes the most difficult part is that when you are when you see the need, when you see all of the need that our community has, and you see all of your limitations, like saying, okay, this is all I can do. I wish I can do more. And I wish, like you said, I know there's a lot of people, not just in Silicon Valley. I mean, Silicon Valley is known for all of the billionaires. I think it's the place where more billionaires live at. I wish there was a way to be able to knock on the doors and say, hey, you want to spend some money on our community? Let us tell you how to do it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but not only in Silicon Valley, all of there's a lot of people who really wants to help, and now we are working with a consultant to try to find ways to again give exposure to what we are doing in support of our community and try to bring some funding because it is needed. It is needed. The
Yes.
community needs it, and we need to bring all of that support to them.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Jesus, since I know, and it's and you know, this is the I can, you know, the thing is, we've never met in person, and I know because, you know, right, because of that
Mhm.
we met during 2020, but I feel like, you know, this energy when we finally do meet in person, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be like an incredible, you know, brainstorming session and celebration at the same time. But before then, I'm really hoping that, you know, before the summer kicks in, you know, we can have a follow-up conversation to this conversation and say, wow, look what was implemented, maybe share some success stories, you know, and bring to light how real investments into people, into building community and building families and building people from a holistic standpoint, you know, and including business owners, right, can make a huge difference above and beyond like the business, you know. It's a family thing, that this really impacts families. And so I'm praying and hoping, and we'll be working together, you know, to make that happen and ensure that our next time together on this podcast will be to celebrate and
Yeah, I'm
tell,
pretty sure.
right, the outcomes of this work together. Okay.
Yeah, appreciate that again. All my I'm very grateful to you, Sammy, and to Lakeisha for all the support. And there's a lot of people. Some people might ask, how do you do all of that? There's a lot of wonderful people out there who wants to volunteer. Who, when I mention what we're doing and who we are doing this for, they always say, okay, I can put my time in there. I can give that workshop. No problem. You don't, I
Yeah,
don't
and
charge you.
that's me. I
So
already volunteered. I already volunteered too. And I'm gonna get a whole
yes,
crew to be able to, yeah, to support you with technical assistance. Okay.
thank
That's the low-hanging
you.
fruit. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, consider it done. Okay.
Thank,
Okay. Thank
thank
you
you
so
again.
much,
And
Jesus, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Well, actually, we have a meeting in like two
we have a
minutes.
meeting. Yeah.
Yes. And so, but this was really, really great. And I'm so glad we made time for this. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and to bring this information to your audience and to all of your network. Again, thank you for all the support, Sam. And thank you to
Anytime.
Lakeisha as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're my brother. Eres mi hermano. Okay. We'll
Thank
talk
you,
soon.
sister. Gracias. Gracias.
Okay. This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.